Okay, so this video is going to help with homework 12, the last problem, problem 4, and this is a two-way ANOVA. And what we're going to do is we're going to see if there is any effect of the length of a commercial advertisement. So the length could either be 30 seconds or 60 seconds. Is there any effect on having a different duration, different length of the advertisement? Or is there any effect on how you advertise, either via radio or television? So that's what we want to see. We want to see if there's any effect on how effective the advertisement is based on either length or the advertising medium. When I say advertising medium, I mean either radio or TV. All right, I'll go ahead and load that data into StatCrunch, just so we have it there. Okay, there it is. Let's see what we got. All right, determine the null and alternative hypothesis for the main effects. Okay, so for the main effects, remember what we're trying to do is we're trying to see if both length and medium has an effect on the ratings, right? And they did the ratings on a scale of 1 to 5. So you assume that there is no effect. There is no effect on the ratings. So let's see. The ratings, let's see, we want to see if, let me find one that says that the length has no effect on the ratings. Here's one. So here it says on F, look at my F, it says the length of the ad has no effect on the ratings. And then the alternative says that it does have an effect. So that's one thing. We want to see if the length has an effect. And the other thing we want to see is if the medium has an effect on the ratings. Length has an effect on the ratings, and medium has an effect on the ratings. So this one, the advertising medium has no effect on the ratings for the null. And then for the alternative, the advertising medium does have an effect on the ratings. So in this first one, you need two answers. The length has no effect on the ratings, and the medium has no effect on the ratings for the null hypothesis. And then you're going to want to see if there's any interaction between the medium and the length. So you assume that there is no interaction between the medium and the length. There is no interaction between the medium and the length of the advertisement of the ad on the ratings. So that looks pretty good for B. Let's make sure that's all of our options. You want to see if there's an interaction between medium and length. That looks pretty good. See if there's any interaction between those two on the ratings. Is there any combination that's more effective? All right, you assume that there's no interaction between the medium and the length. Okay, we'll continue. All right, next. Determine the test statistic for the main effects. Select the correct choice below, and if necessary, fill in any answer boxes to complete your choice. Okay, so they want the test statistic for, now remember what are the main effects? The main effects are the length and the medium, right? And we're wanting to do the test statistics. So let's go back to StatCrunch and see if we can get test statistics on the on the length and the medium of the advertisement. So let's go to StatCrunch. You're going to want to go to Stat, ANOVA. This is a two-way ANOVA. And what we want is we want to see if the response is our rating, right? That's what we want to see if we have some sort of response to. Our row, I kind of forget what my row was. I think my row was the length. My row was the, row. And then the column, but that was the medium, but they labeled it column. That's nice because I briefly forgot about that. I think that should do it. I think I'll be able to compute that. And remember what they want is they want the test statistic. In this case, the test statistic is the F stat. So for the row and the column and the interaction, there you have the F statistic. So I'll go ahead and write down the F statistic and put that into StatCrunch. So the F statistic for the row and the column are there. That's what they want first. So let me write that down. All right, so we should be able to put that in. So for the length was the row. The test statistic is, let's make sure that we pick the right one. So remember, what we're trying to do is we're trying to find the test statistic on the length and the medium that affects the rating. The test statistic for the main effect of advertising medium on length. Nope, that's not what I want on A. B, it says, the test statistic for the main effect of advertising medium on rating. Yes, that's what I want. And then look, the test statistic for the main effect of length on rating. That's perfect. That's what I want. B. All right. The test statistic for the main effect of the medium, that was the columns. For me, that was, I wrote it down, this was in StatCrunch, that was the column, 1.50, what they want it to, how many decimal places? 2 decimal places, okay. For the medium, that's the column, 1.51. 1.51. Okay, that's good there. And the main effect on the length, I already wrote that down, that was 0.03. All right, 0.03. That should be good to go. Let's check that out. Okay, that's good. Next. Determine the test statistic for the interaction effect. Well, that was again back on StatCrunch, interaction. We have an interaction column there. And I wrote down my F statistic to 2 decimal places. And that was 0.77 for me. 0.77. And I can check that. That's all from StatCrunch. And then it says determine the p-value. The p-values are also given. So I'm going to take a second and write down my p-value for the row, column, and interaction. Okay, so I got my p-values written down. And remember, what we're doing is we're trying to see if medium or length has an effect on ratings. So let's see, what is B? B says that the main effect on the medium on ratings. That's what I want. I want the effect of medium on ratings and length on ratings. So I got to be sure that it's an effect on ratings. So here is the medium. My medium is the column. So I wrote down the p-value for the column. That was 0.2372. Let's see how many places they want that. 3 decimals. So that is 237.237. .237. Okay, that's good. And now for the P-value for the length, that's the row, so that's 0.863. Of course, yours will be different. 0.863, but that just comes from StatCrunch, right? The p-value from StatCrunch. Remember what I did was I went to StatCrunch, Stat, ANOVA, two-way. For number 4, you go to two-way ANOVA. Put in the interaction as ratings. Put row for row, column for column. And then that should be good to go. P-value for the interaction, I already wrote that down to 3 decimal places. For me, it's 0.393. 0.393. Okie dokie. So, what kind of conclusion can we make? Reject all null hypothesis? Reject the null hypothesis for both main... Well, let's see what we got. Based on my critical values, what was my... Well, you know what? I think I'm going to go with p-values here. Let me remind you about p-values. You guys remember the deal with p-value, right? You compare p-value with the alpha value. And if the p-value is less than alpha, reject the null hypothesis. If the p-value is less than alpha, then you reject the null hypothesis. Or if it's greater than, you fail to reject. Okay, so let's just compare our p-values. So we got some p-values. My p-value for the row was 0.863. My p-value for the column was 0.237. My p-value for the interaction was 0.393. The alpha value, forget what the alpha value is, let's go back and look at the alpha value, was 0.05. 0.05. All of these are greater than alpha. All of them. So for all the cases, we fail to reject the null hypothesis. That's how we're going to tell that. In every case, we fail to reject all null hypothesis. Why? Because the p-values were greater than alpha. Interpret the results of the main effects. Select all that apply. So what was the null hypothesis? The null hypothesis is that there was no effect. So the length had no effect on the rating. Let's see if we can find that. The length of the ad had no effect on the rating. The medium has no effect on the rating. Where's that? The advertising medium has... Where is it? The advertising medium has... I needed to say the medium has no effect. Here it is. The advertising medium hasn't... Nope. The advertising medium has no effect. The advertising medium has no effect on the rating. I'm going to select that one. That's the question. Does the length have an effect on the rating? Does the medium have an effect on the rating? And in both cases, we failed to reject. In other words, that we accept the null hypothesis, that there's no effect on the rating. And then does it say anything about the interactions? I don't think it says anything about the interaction yet. That's probably the last one. All right. Last one says, well, what about the interaction? Well, remember what we did was we assumed that there was no interaction, and we failed to reject that. So the interaction has no effect on the rating either. The interaction between what? The interaction between the medium and the length has no effect on the rating. The interaction between the medium and the length has no effect on the rating. That's what we want. All right, there it is. All right, guys, next week's going to be final exam week. More information to come on that.